We're about to create your very own mobile application in the powerful Kivy framework in Python. Or let me rephrase that. We're actually going to convert an existing PyQt desktop application that we've done together, and we're going to convert that into a working mobile application. And you're not only going to learn the powerful Kivy framework, but I'm also going to introduce you to the Google Translate module as well as the speech recognition module. If you're ready, I'm more than ready. Let's dive into the episode. Welcome back, guys, to another episode of, you guessed it, Code with Josh. I'm Josh. I'm stoked to have you guys back. And that's right, guys, I'm gonna take you guys through how you can set up your own mobile application from start to finish, and by the end of this, you're gonna have a mobile app that's ready to be exported. And what this really focuses on, because we're coming from working with object-oriented programming, the real benefits of building these desktop and mobile applications and using frameworks like PyQt and Kivy is honing in your OOP skills through object-oriented projects. Guys, real quick, before I dive in case you missed it, I have 2 free courses out, over 30 hours of content dedicated to you, to helping you go from zero to knowing, or A to Z. If you missed these, right, I'm gonna link these here, all right, as well as the first link in the description. Okay, so head to the description. I have links down there. Not only do you have my free courses for you guys hosted on my own platform, I'm also giving you guys a free Python and Git starter pack. And there's also affiliate links down there, right? That does help me, as all my content is free. So check those out, help the channel, and I can't wait for more. All right, I'm excited. I love apps. I love the design aspect. And I'm excited to take you guys through Kivy in our project today. We're going to refactor our existing desktop translator application. And this application has speech recognition as well as the translation functionality. And we want to take that into a mobile form. This mobile form is going to include everything we already have. And I also want to include some touch sensors. I don't know why I said touch sensors. I really want to create a screen that transitions smoothly so it slides when I enter my app. All right, enough chit chat. Let me dive in and break it down real quick before our code. Now, the first real thing I want to talk about is getting your idea going, right? So this is you running on the treadmill, trying to get your startup going, right? And really, you need to create a singular product, right? But this product, it needs to work maybe on the desktop, on the mobile device, and maybe you want a web version of this. Now, as one person, that's a lot of things happening, right? But this is optimal ways. This is real world ways people create MVP, minimum viable products. And if you're just one person, right, Python is a great language for this. Is it optimal? Maybe not, but a startup phase, right? Creating that MVP product, it's more than optimal. I can use Python for everything. And for the mobile form, we're going to use Kivy. For the desktop form, I could use PyQt, right? Wait, okay, I'm going to take you further. This is really the core breakdown of Python MVP, right? If we want to create one product that could work on each of these, I have a desktop, a web, and a mobile form, Python's frameworks have got you covered. I have extensive videos out on PyQt, taking your Python GUI skills up a level. And I have a big surprise, guys, coming out for you guys real soon. If you've been keeping up with my courses that I've released for you, right, I'll let you guess what could be coming up, all right? Now, we've done PyQt, we've done Kivy. The one I haven't touched on this channel yet is web development, the websites with Python. For that, we can use Flask and Django. Guys, can you comment below and let me know, which one would you guys like me to focus on? Are you more of into Flask or the Django route? If we take a look here, right, we've done the desktop phase. We are now on to the mobile phase of this, of creating an MVP. So now you, one person, you could get your idea going. All right, let's jump into the code. Hey guys, wait, do me a favor. Before I take you into the code, because that's why you're here, click the like button and subscribe. That really does help me as a small growing channel, and it means the world. All right, let's dive into VS Code. All right, so here you can see I have a split screen. Over here is where all of our Kivy is gonna go, our mobile application, okay? And over here is my existing desktop application. Okay, so very quickly, if I run my code, I want you guys to be able to see the app. We want to be able to convert this working translator app with our speech recognition into a mobile form, okay? Because PyQt is not meant to be put on the Android store or the iOS store, right? So Kivy is for mobile apps. That's what we're focusing on here. This is a longer video, guys. All right, a lot of it I'll be talking through my thought process and how it's working, okay? Feel free to pause the video, use the timestamps I've provided, okay? And then go back through. If you've worked with PyQt before, a lot of this is gonna look really similar. If you wanna check those videos out, they're over on the channel. But if you know one GUI framework, the other one is so much easier to pick up, and vice versa. Okay, let's dive into our mobile app and get our Kivy app started. So over here, we want to replicate this. Okay, now I'm not going to keep this here the whole time just for the time being. The first thing we need to do with Kivy is get all of our imports going. And with Kivy, this is actually rather annoying because I have to go through and I have to individually import each of these. Now, Kivy, I'm going to import app, and we need this to create an app. The other ones, we are going to tap into Kivy.uix. Now, UIX is a module which contains all the Kivy widgets. I'm going to link the documentation to Kivy below, right? Head on down there and check that out. In there is the widgets tab. Okay, so I'm going to put what we need for this application. Like, what do we need? Well, I need text labels. I need an input box. I need buttons. I need a few other things to get this working. Let me put those in here and I'll talk about that. Awesome. So to get our translator app working, this is really all I need, all the widgets we're going to see on the screen. Okay, now we do have to import those individually. I can't just import star with Kivy. It's a rather annoying process, but for readability, it's actually great. All right. Now, the last thing I need here is I'm actually going to say from Kivy.uix.ScreenManager. I'm going to import two things. I'm going to import screen, and then I'm going to import ScreenManager. I love doing this as this allows me to create one app class and manage all the screens within my application in a parent container. Okay, let me close up the PyQt part and just dive full into Kivy. So everything here for now, I can come back to this. Let me just close this off. Okay, I'm going to zoom in for you guys. There we go. So our other imports needed right now, I'm going to skip this and we'll come back to that once we get the initial design going. Okay, and you can notice that I've written this out. Guys, I would pause the video. If you can write out pseudocode, it makes the process so much easier in your design. You can visually see what's happening. Now, to get our Kivy app started, I'm going to come down here and create a home screen. So I'm going to create class. I'm going to call this home. This is a screen. Okay, screen we're importing from Kivy. Each class in any app that I make, right, if it's a multi-windowed application, it's really cool to create one screen as one class, and we can link those together. So we have that. I'm going to create init because we have our screen that we're inheriting here. Now inside here, I'm going to put self, and I'm going to put the quargs keyword parameter. Let me explain that here in a moment. Let's activate our superclass inside giving it quargs. Now, really head on over to the Kivy documentation. But this is actually really cool because it makes for my styling so much easier. By giving quargs, there's endless properties with each class, with each widget in Kivy. And I can just style the app how I want it to by doing quargs. So now that I've initialized the screen, okay, I like to create a class for design. So typically speaking, I'll be like init UI. This is the UI that gets initialized when the app starts. I can put pass here, right? And this is really the only method we want to call up here to get things started. So when my app runs, init UI is called, and I can do all my design here. The first step of any design of a GUI application is just creating the objects we will use in a moment. So I'm just going to create those objects. I'm going to create a title. I'm going to create a few input options. So I'll have an input option. This will be like a language. We are going to have an output option, our output translation language. We need a bunch of buttons. So I need a button to reverse my screen. I need a button to clear my screen. We'll have one for the translation, and we're going to have one for the speak button. Okay, so these are my properties, but there's nothing to them. So really, title is a label. Anything that's text in PyQt, Kivy, label. Okay, so what is this text going to say? This is one of the Quargs parameters. You can put here, I'm going to name my app PyLater. Real clever. And then any other styling here. So let me put in 2 stylings of a font size and a font name. My label can take this. Now the other ones, the input is going to be a drop-down box, which is going to take nothing currently. We'll say drop-down again. The buttons are from the button class that we imported. Now button can take a few things, right? What do you want the button to say? Text. It's the same keyword property from all the others. So I can say text. What should the button say? Reverse. Adding in my other stylings. And let me do the same for the other ones here. Awesome. So here are all the objects we want to see on the screen. But if you run your code, nothing happens for so many different reasons. We just created the object. We need to add the object to our app layout now. This is done through BoxLayout. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we've created all widgets. I will do the drop-down list later. Let's create a master layout. This is like a master container that everything is held. This is going to be a row. Then I'm going to have column 1, which is also a layout. I need to specify the orientation. Because this is going to be a column, I need to say vertical. It's a vertical column. Additionally, I'm going to put in some padding here, and I'm going to say I'm going to give it some extra space at 15. Let me copy and paste that for column 2. Okay, now that we have our design ready to go, okay, I'm going to start with the columns. What do I want to see in column 1? Well, I want to see a title and then all my buttons. In column 2, I want to have the text input fields with my reverse button. Okay, so let me put the app image on the screen, something like this. So we'll take column 1, all we have to do is say add widget, and then top to bottom. What do I want to see at the top? In order, so the title. Right, so self title, that goes up top. What comes after the title? Let me just add in the rest here. Awesome, so my app is going to take this structure. This is column 1 is done. Now I'm going to go to column 2 and say, okay, what is in column 2? Well, we're going to have our input text box, which actually, looking up here, I haven't actually created yet. So, okay, let's just come up here and let's say self.input box, self.output box. Okay, these are going to be our text input class, both of these guys. And I'm going to drop in some keyword quarks here. Okay, great. So I have a hint text, and you can see I have text in all the buttons. So text appears, I can see that. Hint text is like placeholder text. When I click the box, it's going to disappear, right? So it's like a hint for the user. Now we have those. So now in column 2, I would like to see my input box, not option, box. Okay, under that, we're going to say column 2, add widget. I want my reverse button here, so not remove widget. Great, and then at the very bottom, I can say column 2, add widget. What do we want to add? I want to add my output box. Awesome. So everything is now held in the columns. Where are the columns going to go? Well, they're going to go in my master layout, which is a row. I have a row that's holding column 1 and column 2. So let's do that now. So the next step would be taking my row, which is called master. We're going to say add widget, column 1. Same thing for column 2, master, add widget, col 2. Now this master layout, I want to add it to myself. What? What's myself? Me? No, my screen, right? Because we inherited the class screen from Kivy. So I can say self, that refers to my screen, and then we can add the master. So really our design is done. When you run the code, nothing happens, don't run it. Let's fix it now. Going to the bottom, to get a Kivy app working, I like to create a main screen container. So I'm going to call it like main app. We're going to inherit app from Kivy. For Kivy to work, we need to create a build method. This is what puts our app together. I'm going to create an object called SM. This is ScreenManager. Think of this as a person who manages your screens. So we can use the class we imported. Now, ScreenManager, I can add widgets too, but the widgets are the actual screens themselves. What's the name of our screen? If I go up, your class is called Home. So Home is the name of the screen. So going down, I'm just going to say I would like to add Home as a class. I'm going to give it a name. I'll just call it Home for now. Then we can just return our ScreenManager. We're done. The final steps, let me delete that, get some boilerplate. This is really it. Okay, run your code. Oops, I have an error. Let me fix that real quick. Oh, my buttons. Button, comma. Does that solve it? Solve it.
Some issues. Input button. What is input button? Line 48. For the time being, what I'm going to do is replace input button. I'm going to put my input option here. So those are your drop-down boxes. Okay, let's change that to button clear, button clear. Cool, here's the initial version of our app. Now, it's not great. We can't see the drop-down boxes, but we're ready for the next step. The next step is to create the drop-down boxes. So to do this in Kivy is actually kind of a pain. I need to loop through all the languages and create a button for each one and then add the button to the drop-down. Okay, so let me do that. First thing, in my code, okay, I have a file called languages.py. This is just a dictionary I got from Google Trans, and then I made a list out of the keys and the values. Okay, I'm going to link the docs to Google Translate below that you can just copy and paste this there. What I'm doing then is in my main file, I am going to import that. So from languages, not lang codes, import star. Okay, close it up. Now we're going to go back down to create these buttons. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say for every language in my list of values, that's the list in my other file, I would like to create a button for every language. Okay, what is the text of the button going to be? Well, it's going to be the current language in my loop that I'm iterating through. Here's two other styles we can apply to it. What I'm going to do is say self.input_box. That's my input option box. I would like to add a widget. What do I want to add? My input button. I can do the same thing for the output button. Let me drop this in. Cool. So now that we have that on the outside of our for loop, I've created a list of buttons. Every language has a button. Okay, I want now a starting button. All right, what I'm going to do here is let's create like our initial input button and our initial output button. Now to get the drop down to work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create an event. Now the Kivy events are a bit different, but what we can do here is I'm going to say the input button. I would like to bind that with, that is my event. I'm going to bind that. Okay, so what event? Well, it's going to be a release event. So when I click the drop down box and I release, what do I want to do? I'm going to tap into my drop down box. So that's the name of my drop-down box, and I would like my box to open. Copy and paste this. We need one for our output box. Now that we have those, I can just come down here and give this a quick test. Let's swap out our widgets. So column 1, add widget, not input option, because that's the whole box, just the input button. So let's say input button, input button. Run your code. Let's see what we get. Awesome, I have my two buttons, click it, look at that. Look at that drop down. Okay, it's working great, but what happens if I click a button? Nothing. Let's fix that. Close the app. Okay, very quickly to fix that, I need a place to store the chosen text that I get. So I'm gonna create a method to just store the text. I'm gonna call this like update button text. It's gonna take self, it's gonna take a button, and then it's going to take text from that button. And then really all we're doing here is I'm going to tap into button because that's really an object. We'll say the button's text is equal to whatever text we give it. Okay. To get the language to bind now, I'm going to go up to my for loop. So I create the input button, I create the output button. What I'm going to do after I create the input button is I'm going to say input button, I would like to bind. On release is going to be an anonymous function. Okay, so I'm going to give it a button. It's a lambda function. And this button, I'm going to call the method we just made. And I'm going to give it a button. What's the button called? Well, the button is my input button, the original button we created below there. And then it's going to take the current button's text. Copy and paste this one. Let's run our code and give it a test. Boom, there we go. Now we can actually choose some languages. Well, I clicked the wrong one there. Output. I said BTN. Okay, there we go. Okay, so our initial design is done. Let's move on to the logical part of this. If I go down to our code, let's focus on the translate text method. Okay, so this is really the Google Translate module working for us. Speaking of that, let's import the rest of what we need. I'm gonna say from Google Trans, import our translator class. I'm gonna say from speech recognition, nope, not, I'm going to say as SR. So I'm going to say import speech recognition as SR. Cool, very cool. And then the last one, I'm going to teach you guys how to style in Kivy with a Kivy file. That'll be at the end, that's a bonus. Let's go down now. I'm going to create a method called translate text. This is going to take, well, not really an instance, but if I don't want to call it on itself, most of my methods will just say instance equals none. I need a source language, I need a destination language, and then I'll create text from that. So my source language is really what item did I choose from the drop-down box, right? And then the destination language is what language did I choose from the drop-down? Where am I going to? And then the text I want to translate, I need to capture that from the text input. We can do the same thing. I'll say self.inputBox.text. Now I have all the data we need. To get this to work, I'm going to try to do something here. I'm going to try to translate using the translator class. We can take translate. I should actually call this translate text. You'll see in a second. Translate text. I would like to translate. That's why. What do we want to translate? I want to translate the text. What is the source? Well, it's my source language. Where is it going to? Well, it's going to my destination language. And I'm going to return the text value of what I get. Let's store this somewhere. My response, res, is equal to that. Then all we have to do is take our output box. Let's change the text to be our response. We're done. I'm going to put in here some except statements, right, because we need those. I could get a bunch of errors. If I get an error, we're just going to print off in our output box error. You're done. Translate text is done, all right? So I'm going to blast through this still. What's next? So the next one, you have the translation done. Getting the speech recognition is a bit different now. So I'm going to create a method called recognize speech. Dropping in self, instance, just say none if you can work around that, right? By including instances none, right, this really just makes your methods more versatile, and then you can call them without relying on an instance, okay? Great, so I'm gonna create a listener. So this is literally a person whose job is to sit there and listen, and that's equal to our recognizer that we imported. I can say with my microphone as my main source, I'm going to try to create audio from that. I'm going to take my listener, and I want my listener to listen to my source, which is your microphone. And I'm going to give them a timeout of 5 seconds. And I didn't spell listener right, listener, there. Okay, from my audio, I'm going to create text. So I'm going to give my listener, and I would like them to recognize, not Amazon, let me change that to say Google, okay? So inside this, I'm just going to say I want them to use my audio. I can then return the text that it gets. Let's drop in a few special ones here for our exceptions. Awesome. All of these are special from the speech recognition module that will handle an exception a little bit differently because errors can happen with this. Let's catch those errors. So recognize speech is done, but all this is doing is returning to you text. I want to take this text and now I want to translate that text that I speak to it. All right, this makes for more accessibility within our application. To handle this, I'll create a speak to translate method. Okay, so our instance is none. Let's spell translate right. Okie dokie. Really all I'm going to do is I'm going to create text and I'm going to call my recognize speech. That's going to return the text to me. And if I do indeed have texts, if that's true, I'm going to take my input box and I'm going to set the text of that to be the text response we got. Then now that we have our input box with text inside, well, we can call our translate function. So self.speech translate. We're done. That's brilliant. Okie dokie. So all the real logic of our modules is done. Let's just add the more functionality. So the accessibility. I want to be able to reverse all the languages as well as wipe clean my application. Let's start with clear. Let's just call this clear boxes. We can just say self.inputBox.text is equal to an empty string. Self.outputBox.text is also equal to an empty string. We're done. That's it. To reverse the languages, so I'm going to say reverse text, we really just capture the initial information we have and we just reset it. Here I'm just capturing the initial starting values of my input box and my output box. And then we're just going to take our box text and we're just going to swap those values like so. So I'm just swapping the text. We can do the same thing for our drop-down box. Capture the initial values, swap them out. Okay, so your reverse method is done. We have our reverse, we have clear, speak, everything is looking great. Really the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go up here is I just need to link
1, 2, 3, 4. All these buttons need an action. So we're gonna link those right here, okay? In as one of my kwargs, I just have to go in here and apply, like on press, that's my event. When I on press, what do I wanna do? Well, I wanna call my method reverse text, okay? For reset, when I say on press, I would like to call my clear boxes method. For translate on press, we would like to call our translate method. And then our last one on press, speak to translate. Wow, I think we're about done. That's awesome. All right, I'm gonna run the app right now. Cool, if I go through, I'm gonna choose English from the box. Let's choose another language, check. Okay, I'm gonna type good morning, translate. Look at that, you have a working translator app, right? Click reverse, reverse, I can click reset, it's all working, but it's ugly, okay? That's what we're about to fix now. Okay, so I'm gonna fix the ugliness, let's learn how to style it, okay? And then additionally, I'm actually gonna start with my transitions of everything. Okay, so I'm gonna create a welcome screen as well as a sliding transition because it looks better on mobile. Closing everything down, going up to the top of my code. Okay, so I'm gonna create a welcome screen first. Class welcome. This is also a screen. Let's get everything initialized. What do we need to do? I can just copy and paste this part. Okay, so initialize, we're gonna initialize kwargs. Brilliant. I'm gonna create a layout, so master layout, right? This is just gonna be a column. I have that ready to go, and I just want to see two things here. So I'm not going to create an object for them. I'm just going to say add widget, and I can actually just add the object directly within that. So label, what do I want the text to say? I want it to say like, welcome to PyLater. Cool. Additionally, I would like to add a button that's going to allow me to transfer to the next screen. Now this button we haven't actually created yet, so I'm going to come back to that in a moment. I'm just going to say self add widget, right? What do we want to add to myself? The master screen. That's really all we needed to get going. Now the screen transition will actually be a class of its own. And this transition itself is not a screen, it's a button. It's an object, it's a new button, okay? But I can treat this button differently. So I'm going to inherit button. And we can apply the same thing as before, but this time I'm gonna actually sneak up here, okay? Because a button, I know I'm gonna give this special button a few things. It's gonna take a screen, it's gonna take a direction. Which direction do I want it to scroll? So I want it to go up, right? And then where is the next screen? The goal is going to be to go to the home screen. Okay, so then we have kwargs, drop that in. Okay, for each of these, just create a property. Screen, screen, direction, direction, goal, goal. Okay, now very quickly, I'm just gonna create my event itself. So on press, right? Now on press, I'm gonna tap into here and I'm gonna say, hey, I need to get to my screen and I need to speak to the manager. I'm not a Karen, but today I am, or Kevin, right? Because I need to speak to the manager. So my screen manager, right, I would like to affect the transition direction. And that is going to go to my self direction property. And then finally, our screen manager, the current is need to go to our goal. Okay, cool. So I have a button that's called screen transition. This acts a bit differently. So really down here now, I'm going to say screen transition because that is a button. Where is this going to be applied to? Myself, right? Because I need to give it a screen. That is myself. And then any other details that we might have, right? So what direction is the screen going? Anything like that. Okay, now that I have a welcome screen, let me just go down to the very bottom, right? Because I need to put this into my manager itself. This is the first screen, so we're putting it here, and I'm going to say welcome, right? What is the name? We can say welcome, I guess. And then my goal is home. Okay, sweet, that should work. I'm going to run my code and test it. So now we see this. When I click start, oh, smooth scroll, right? We're looking good. The app looks great, guys. And remember, if I've gone too fast, go back to my timestamps. I will put the Git repo in the description as well. Comment and let me know what you think of today's long-form project. Okay, now comes the Kivy styling. Now with real websites, we use CSS. And Kivy is really like CSS in many different ways. It's a little different, but the structure is about the same. And I'm going to show you now how to set up a Kivy file, okay, for styling. So I'm going to close my app. Close. Let's open up here, create a new file. Now this file needs to match your Python file. So currently my file is main.py. I'm going to say main.kv. Enter. Now you should have the Kivy language extension installed on VS Code in order for this to work correctly. Okay, so this, you can think of this as like a CSS style, CSS sheet, kind of, okay? Very quickly, in your main file now, let's go to the top. I need one more thing from Kivy to get this to work. I'm going to say from kivy.lang, I would like to import the class builder. At the very bottom of your code now, before we run the app, all right? So this is not even in your app manager. I'm going to take my builder and I would like to load a file. Make sure you put as a string your Kivy file, just like that, okay? Now you can apply any styling you want. And the styling itself is applied to the class in a structured format. Okay, so I need to target my box layout because that's the parent container. And then I can target the items within that. Okay, so all I'm doing here is the coloring. Let's do that. In my Kivy file, to do this, okay, which class am I targeting? Well, for example, I need to do these brackets and I'm going to say my welcome class, right? That's a class I have. And then we also have a class called home. Let's start with welcome. So inside the welcome class, I have a box layout, right? And inside, what's going on there? Tab. Okay, inside my box layout, what is the orientation going to be? This can be vertical. Cool. We can give it a padding. Now this padding, I'll actually just leave it blank because it's going to apply to its After Effects. And we can say canvas before. This is going to allow us to add colors. Now, inside Canvas, we can tap into color, and I'm going to apply an RGBA color. To match the color format, let me drop in my color. Cool, just like so. For home, it's really the same thing, because the only styling I'm doing here, actually, for this episode, guys, is I'm just doing the background color, really. Kivy's sort of a pain to style. Now, it's cool in the CSS sheet, this Kivy file, right? But in order to target the items, it's a lot more work than just PyQt. If you guys want to see that, let me know below in the comments. Okay, so ideally, this style sheet should take effect. Okay, let me just apply it to the overall rectangle. Hang on. So just as a safety net, my current position, I don't want the position to change. If I save that and I run my code, well, you can see that I'm throwing an error in the Kivy file, my welcome screen. Let's change the home parent is actually horizontal. Okay, run the code. Still an error. What do I have going on here? Let me take a look. Trash your code. Oh, well, hang on. So this is the thing too. It gives you a decent error. Your colon, just like CSS I'm going to use. Boom, look at that. Look at that. Okay, click it. This looks better, okay? I've just applied a background color, all right? This is all we're gonna do here today, but this app is a functioning mobile app ready for export. You have speech recognition. You've been introduced to Kivy, guys, right? Check out my other Python GUIs video. And guys, if you enjoyed this, smash that like button, subscribe, all right? I got more of this coming your way. So here you can see a full working Kivy app. Now guys, feel free to design this as much as you want to, right? Your languages, you have speech recognition. I can reverse everything. You have that app ready to go. Well done. That's awesome, guys. You have a mobile application in Python. And I showed you guys how we took an app we built a few episodes ago in PyQt, our desktop, and we converted that into a working mobile application using the Kivy framework. And I really hope you got to see how knowing one framework helps you pick up the other, and the same logic can apply. Guys, if you enjoyed today's episode, do me a favor, click that like button and subscribe, as I have daily Python content helping you every day, right? From my weekly episodes to my daily shorts to my free Python courses, right? Now, I've spent a lot of time on the desktop apps, guys. Kivy, if you're into these mobile applications, you let me know. Guys, remember, if you're interested in my free Python courses, over 30 hours of content, it's the link in the description, as well as all the other resources I have available to you guys. Well, that's all for today. Another episode, a longer episode of Code with Josh. Until next episode, I'll see you then.